He stood there, trembling, confused, and invisible. An old white man, lost in the middle of a busy street, while crowds passed him like he didn't exist. People whispered, pointed, and turned away. Except for one, a young black girl stopped, despite the stares and judgment. She didn't know who he was, only that he needed help. But what she didn't know was that this single act of kindness would uncover a truth that would change her life forever. Because sometimes, helping a stranger reveals more than anyone expects. Nyla was 17, the kind of girl whose kindness often went unnoticed. She lived in a quiet neighborhood on the city's edge, a place where people hurried past each other, eyes glued to their phones, hearts sealed shut. Every morning, she rode her old bicycle to the community center where she helped tutor younger kids. It wasn't glamorous, but it was her way of giving back. Life wasn't easy. Her mom worked double shifts, her shoes were worn thin, and yet Nyla always carried a light in her eyes that the world couldn't dim. That afternoon, the city buzzed with its usual rush, car horns, chatter, and a steady drizzle that made the sidewalks shimmer. Nyla pedaled home slowly, her mind lost in thoughts about how to fix her bike's chain, when she noticed something strange. Near the corner of Elm Street, an old man stood still, perfectly still, as if lost in another world. His suit was rumpled, his silver hair drenched, and his hands shook as he clutched a cane. People moved around him, whispering, pointing, some even smirking, but no one stopped. Nyla slowed down, her heart tugging with unease. Something about him didn't feel right. Not dangerous, but forgotten. She could hear a group of teenagers laughing nearby, mocking him under their breath. It made her chest tighten. She didn't know who he was, or why he was standing there in the rain, but something told her he didn't belong. Not like this. She parked her bike, hesitated, then took a small breath and stepped closer. Because sometimes, the smallest moments, the ones we almost ignore, are the ones that change everything. As Nyla approached, the sound of laughter grew sharper. That kind of laughter that cuts, not amuses. A group of bystanders stood under a nearby awning, pointing at the old man as if he were a street performer gone wrong. A woman whispered, "Probably drunk," and another said, "He should know better than to wander here." No one moved to help. They just watched, judging, mocking, assuming. Nyla's shoes splashed through puddles as she got closer. "Sir?" she said softly, though her voice was barely above the hum of the city. The old man looked up, pale blue eyes wide, filled with confusion and fear. His lips trembled, as if trying to remember something. "Someone. I don't know where I am," he murmured. His voice cracked under the weight of exhaustion. The people nearby didn't hear, or didn't care. Some turned away. Others glanced at Nyla with suspicion, as if helping him were out of line. One man muttered, "Leave him, girl. Don't get involved." Nyla hesitated. Her heart pounded. It wasn't just the stairs, it was the unspoken rule. In this part of town, a young black girl reaching out to an old white man drew more attention than compassion. Still, she took a step closer and held out her hand. "It's okay. I can help you." He stared at her hand for a moment, then slowly reached out, his fingers cold, trembling. Around them, the laughter faded into murmurs. The scene drew eyes, cameras, whispers, but not kindness. Nyla guided him to a bench nearby. "Do you remember your name?" she asked gently. He blinked, struggling to recall. "Charles, I think." His words trailed off. His suit, though wrinkled, looked expensive. His shoes were fine leather. His watch gleamed beneath the rain. Clearly not a man who belonged on a street corner. But no one noticed that detail. To everyone else, he was just some lost old man. And to some, a problem someone else should deal with. Then came the first challenge. A police car slowed down at the curb, lights flashing briefly. Two officers stepped out. One of them, tall, broad, white, frowned at the sight. "Everything okay here?" His tone wasn't kind. It was cautious, skeptical. The other officer eyed Nyla, his expression unreadable. "Miss, what's going on?" Nyla explained quickly, but her words were met with doubt. The officer looked at Charles. "Sir, is this girl bothering you?" The question hit her like a slap. "What?" she stammered. But Charles only looked blankly at them, too disoriented to respond. The silence felt heavy. People started filming. The officers exchanged a look, one suspicious, one uncertain. Finally, the older officer sighed, realizing the man wasn't coherent. "We'll take it from here," he said firmly, gesturing for Nyla to step back. But when Charles suddenly gripped her hand tighter, refusing to let go, everything changed. The officers paused. His voice was weak but clear. "No, she's helping me." The tone, so desperate, so human, made even the crowd fall silent. Nyla's heart raced. She could feel the shift in the air, from accusation to uncertainty. She didn't know who this man was, but in that moment, she realized something deeper was happening. The crowd wasn't just watching a lost man being helped. They were witnessing their own prejudice reflected back at them, and none of them were ready for what they'd soon discover about who he really was. The police officers stood frozen, unsure what to do next. The rain had stopped, but the tension hung heavier than ever. Nyla's hand trembled as she tried to steady the old man, Charles, who clung to her like she was the only thing keeping him from collapsing. The crowd's murmurs turned into a low buzz of judgment and confusion. One officer radioed for backup, still suspicious. "We'll need identification," he said, his tone clipped. Nyla's chest tightened. She could feel the eyes around her, watching, waiting, doubting. And then, as Charles reached into his coat pocket, everyone tensed. The officer's hand instinctively hovered over his holster. "Stop!" he barked. The shout sliced through the air. For a split second, Nyla's breath caught in her throat. Charles froze, terrified. His hand shook as he pulled out not a weapon, but a wallet. Inside was a gold-embossed card and a folded photograph of him with what looked like a governor. The officer hesitated, taking the card. His expression changed instantly. The name gleamed under the streetlight. Charles Whitmore, a billionaire philanthropist, founder of the Whitmore Foundation. The crowd went silent. Nyla looked around, confused, as whispers rippled through the air. The same people who mocked him moments ago now looked stunned, even guilty. The officer straightened, suddenly polite. "Sir, we didn't realize," he began, his voice trembling with embarrassment. But Charles interrupted him, turning slowly toward Nyla. She helped me," he said weakly. "None of them did. Only her." Nyla's eyes filled with tears, not from pride, but from the bitter truth beneath his words. It took a billionaire's name for people to see the humanity they'd ignored. The officer cleared his throat, lowering his gaze. The crowd dispersed quietly, pretending not to stare. Cameras stopped recording. The rain began again, soft, cleansing, almost symbolic. Nyla stood there, still holding Charles's hand, realizing how fragile dignity was in a world where kindness depended on who you were. Because until the name was revealed, no one cared. The next morning, Nyla woke up to her phone buzzing nonstop. Overnight, the story had spread everywhere. Videos of her helping Charles, the billionaire, were now all over social media. Headlines called her the girl who helped a billionaire when no one else would. Her face was on every screen, but behind the praise, she couldn't forget the silence that had come before it. The indifference, the doubt, the way people had looked at her. Charles, now fully recovered, invited Nyla and her mother to meet him. His mansion was everything she never imagined seeing. Marble floors, glass walls, and the quiet hum of a world far from hers. But what struck her most wasn't the luxury. It was the kindness in his eyes. He apologized, not for being lost, but for the world that had failed to see her humanity until he gave it permission. He told her he wanted to fund her education, every dream, every goal. "You didn't help me because of who I was," he said softly. "You helped me because of who you are." Tears welled up in her eyes. She realized that what she did wasn't extraordinary. It was human. The tragedy was that humanity had to be proven. Weeks later, Charles launched a new foundation in her name, the Nyla Initiative, aimed at promoting empathy, awareness, and equality among youth. But Nyla never saw herself as a hero. To her, it wasn't about fame or fortune. It was about that moment on the street, when doing the right thing made her feel like the only one who could see clearly, because what she learned that day went far beyond charity or recognition. It was a reminder that kindness shouldn't require a witness, and compassion shouldn't depend on status. Maybe the real question isn't why no one helped him. It's why we still need a reason to care. Don't miss more powerful real-life stories. Hit subscribe now.